Can you describe your grandmother in one sentence, please?
I would say elegant, classy, and probably carefree lady. So I'm Noosha. I'm from Tehran, born and raised in Tehran, and I moved to UK when I was 16, and I've been kind of like everywhere, Cardiff, London, and now I'm settled in Scotland. And I'm a civil engineer. I design bridges, roads, whatever that you can.
Which grandma are you choosing to talk about today? Paternal or maternal? And why did you choose her?
I would say it's paternal, and the reason for that is because, well, with my maternal side, they're like, I didn't want this to be too dark, and then like there were some emotions that I've not kind of like dealt with, and I know this talk isn't just about like, just telling a happy story. I know we're probably just gonna go somewhere that I'm just gonna get emotional, but at this with my dad's side I'm ready to explore, but with my mom's side I'm not. So that's the reason. And to be honest, I thought her story is, I wouldn't say unique, but it's just more interesting to tell.
Can you tell us about the time and place your grandmother lived in? What was the social, political, or cultural context of her life?
My grandma, she was born I think in 1917, which was towards the end of First World War, and she was born in Bandar Anzali, which for those who don't know, it's like a port city in north of Iran. And she was coming from an affluent and highly influential family. From what I've heard, like when she was born, obviously like the country was going through a crisis in terms of like there were instabilities, and Iran declared neutrality in the war, but still like, there were famine, and then there were like invasions from powers. I think it was from Russia and Britain. So I wouldn't say it was, I would say there was a turmoil and the country wasn't stable. I'm not sure, like as a family, how badly they were hit just because of, the financial situation that they were in. As I said, they were quite well off. So my grandma's father was a silk merchant, and he was doing a lot of trading with, I think like northern countries. And my granddad kind of like, he was like working for my, when he was like, I don't know, like quite young, he was a teenager, he was working for my grandma's dad, and this is how they kind of met. And they got married in, I think she was 18, and then by then my granddad, he joined military, he was in the army, and they kind of like had to move to Abadan. And again, I think this would be during Second World War, that again, like it was another crisis in Abadan because of this whole, like, there were some oil refineries and fields that, again, some powers, they wanted to kind of like have influence over. So, and because my granddad was in the army, like he was sent there to kind of like train soldiers, because they would send the soldiers, if I'm not wrong, to probably fight against Nazis. And my grandma, she obviously had to kind of like follow him, from city to city. And I think the first, probably like, I would say, was the loss of her parents. So just before she got married, she lost her parents, and like, all of a sudden that easy life that, like as I said, she was coming from generational wealth, then, like it was just like a shift in her lifestyle, and again with the war happening. So I wouldn't think that it was easy for her, and because of all of that traveling, she actually lost, I can't remember, was it like her first or second child? And they lost her because of, diarrhea and dehydration. You know, she was, you know, I think she was like, I don't know, 6 months to 1 year. And I can't imagine like what a woman would go through, like losing a child. And it's interesting that like I would never ask her, like, you know, like because to be honest, like I was quite young when I found that, and I didn't want to kind of like, I wasn't brave enough to kind of like accompany her into that journey of like exploring her feelings. You know, I was like, oh my God, this is traumatizing. I don't want to go there. Probably she doesn't want to go there. But yeah, that was probably the biggest one. And then the second one was her decision to get separated from my granddad. And again, we are talking about, I don't know what year that would have been, but I lost my, I think when she passed away, she was 89 or 90, and that was 20 years ago. So this is such an old generation that we are talking about, and the idea of divorce or like separation was such a big taboo back then. And like honestly, like given all of that, you know, like the social situation that she was in, making that decision for herself, like I can't imagine what was going, you know, into her mind. Like very brave. And to be honest, probably that's why I've got so much respect for her. You know, she was ahead of her time. I don't really think, I wouldn't say her life, she didn't pick a typical life for herself. And I hate myself for saying that, because probably if she didn't have that financial stability, like she wouldn't be able to just say no, you know.
So let's go for the next. Let's just go for the next question. Yeah.
All right. Noosha, do you have any specific memories, stories, or anecdotes about your grandmother that stand out to you?
Probably. I'm not sure if it's a story, but well, she had an accident. I think she was in her 50s or 60s. You see, like, she was so much into fashion, right? And even till the end, she was very maintained. She would just always put together, you know, like she would like style her hair. Like it was honestly, like she was something. And she had an accident that I don't know the details, but I know like she had a serious injury to her spine, and it was kind of like deformed, you know, it was like crooked. And like my grandma, she was tall, you know, she was tall. And then like obviously because of that, you know, injury, like she couldn't really like, you know, like she had a bent back. And again, I never discussed that with her.
Shall I tell Farah to?
Maybe. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So you should know that she was quite tall, you know, and like I think probably her style and then her look was kind of like an identity to her, you know. She was very confident, she was really put together, and because of that accident, you know, as I said, she kind of like, you know, that injury, had a deformed spine, and you could see that, you know, it was obvious in her appearance, like the way that she would talk. And I think again that was a big change in her life, but it's interesting because she didn't let that define her, you know. Like I wouldn't say that my grandma was the prettiest woman, but because there was something about her, like she would walk in a room and you couldn't ignore her, you know. She would start talking and everyone would listen. She had that kind of like, you know, I don't know, was it like a superpower or whatever. She wasn't one of those people that you could just push to the corner and then just you know Yeah,
That's important.
yeah. So she wasn't one of those people that you could just like push her in a corner and she would just like be quiet sitting somewhere. No, she had a presence, you know. And I don't know how she got that, to be honest. You know, like you wouldn't be able to ignore her. Basically, she would give you that kind of vibe that she's important. You know.
Nice one. Thank you. So, you've brought something that reminds you of your grandmother.
Mm.
Could you tell us what it is and why you chose to bring it today?
Yeah, I brought a photo, obviously, and a radio. And I actually brought something from my granddad, and I know this is not about granddad, but bear with me, I'll tell you why I brought that. So,
Can you show them?
yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Shall I bring them?
Yeah.
So you don't need to stand up. Maybe maybe we could talk about them one at a time, so you're not holding them, trying to judge.
Yeah, sure.
What would you like to talk
Maybe the photo first, because I
Yeah.
think it's good for them to get a picture. Thank
Yeah.
you. Is this? Oh my God, there's like dust. Is the quality okay? You're not gonna get the reflection. Do you want me to remove it from the
No.
frame?
No, that's
No?
fine. So as long as you point it directly at the camera, we won't get that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Like that.
Sure.
And you could do it a tiny bit lower, maybe. Yeah, about there.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
great. So yeah.
So the first item that I brought is a photo of her, obviously standing next to my granddad, and well, like you can see, and I'm so, I don't know, is it nice for me to say this, but I'm so proud of this photo because this is where I come from, you know, and my granddad, he was in so many wars, but she was there. She was there with him throughout all this journey. And I don't think without her support, he would have been able to achieve what he achieved, you know? So, and she just looks gorgeous in this photo. I mean, her style, like she was in love. She was obsessed with like big hats. And I remember like my dad, he would just like, jokingly he would say, oh, like she was never present, she wouldn't cook because she would just travel to France to just like buy clothes for her. And when I was a kid, I was listening to this story and I was like, oh my God, was she such a cold mom? But now in my like adult life, I'm like, no, she was like choosing a life for herself that she wanted. Like, I don't think that she wanted to be defined by the norm of the society that you would get married, you would have kids. Guess what? She had all of that because she didn't have any other option. But in her own word, in her own style, she was like, no, I'm just gonna make my own story, you know. And it's just brilliant.
Can you share a fun or unusual fact about your grandmother's life? Something that surprised you or made you smile?
I'll tell you one that surprised me, and then another one that was kind of like, yeah. So it's a funny one. Like, once I went to her house, and she was really into like fitness, looking after herself, and then I saw her like she just grabbed a spoon with a lime, like half a lime, and then like she started like squeezing the lime onto the spoon, and then like she would just drop it into her eye, and I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, like I've actually heard that it's good for your vision. And this is the woman that she was into reading, and I think she was doing it, I don't know for how long, and I don't know how often, but I hope that it wasn't every day. And her vision was fine. So this was a weird and a funny one. And another one, again, this is not really funny, but it just brings so many good memories, is like, she was sent to abroad to just learn how to cook. Again, in her family, she didn't need to cook just because, she had to. It was kind of like skill for women, like, you know, in their family. And when she would cook, she would sometimes, probably when she was older, she would burn the rice like tadi. And it's not because she didn't know how to cook. She was such an amazing cook. She would bake. It's just because like she would turn the gas on, and then she would just forget to turn it back off, or just like, it was like on high heat. And it's funny that when we would like, kind of like joke about it, I was, oh, by the way, for those who don't know, tadig is like, I think it's like crispy rice with like, it's like a crust. And she would be like, oh, but you know what? It's actually good for your pancreas. It's good for your liver. I'm like, this is burn. This is carbon monoxide. But she would like, it was a funny one. Like a sweet one, I would say.
Nice one.
Yeah.
So, how do you think your grandmother's life experiences influence or shaped you, your family, or your values?
I think I would like to believe that I've got the sense of my fashion from. No, I'm joking. She wasn't shy about being in her own skin and being comfortable in her own skin. There's one thing that I actually want to say. I don't know how my mom she would react, but like I want to tell this story because I think it's very inspirational. So when my mom she had me, all of a sudden she decided to go and work. She wanted to work. And I think I was literally just born, like I was like, 3 months probably. And my dad, he was so against it. I was like, well, who will look after our baby? And I know that they were going through a phase just to kind of like convince each other. And, I think like everywhere, when you go and apply for a job, you need to show your ID. And it got to the point that my dad was like, I'm not gonna, like, no, you can't have it. And so she was holding on my mom's ID. He was going that far to just stop her from, going to work. And it's funny, I think this happened when my grandma had that accident that I told you, and she injured her back, and she was staying with us for, well, again, I don't remember obviously any of this because I was, 3 months. And she went to my dad, and she was like, you know what, let me help you. I'm just gonna keep an eye on her ID. You just go to work. Don't worry about it. Let me handle this. And he was like, yeah, perfect. And she ran to my dad. Well, not literally, she couldn't run, but she went to my mom, and she was like, there you go. Just go and apply today. I'm just gonna stay here. And she was her in-law, she was her mother-in-law, and she was coming from it's an old woman that we are talking about. It's a different generation, and I think in her own words she was a feminist, and I've got so much respect, because if it wasn't because of what she did, probably my mom wouldn't find her first job, and we always had a comfortable life because both of our parents were working. And yeah.
Nice one. At the beginning of this interview, you described your grandmother in one sentence. After discussing her life, would you still describe her in the same way? If not, how would you describe her in one sentence?
I think I said she was carefree. But I don't really think that's true. I don't think you can go through what she went through, losing a child, separation, like a change in lifestyle, and just be carefree. I think this was her coping mechanism. This was her way to survive. And again, it's interesting that she would tell us this story about losing her first or second child, I can't remember. She wouldn't cry. And I wouldn't make big deal out of it because, I was young, but me, like, I'm thinking, if I lost a child, like this would have been, it's so traumatizing. And I think she was so resilient. She was so used to like keep moving forward, keep going. Because probably herself or the women her age or her generation, they actually didn't have the support group that we've got. They didn't access to therapy. The concept of therapy was like, what are you talking about? They couldn't go to their husbands or to their friends or, like, and just talk about their emotions. It just didn't exist. That concept didn't exist. So they had to kind of like channelize and just deal with it in their own way. And she was dealing with it in her own way. She was traveling, she was like shopping, and this is her way of like dealing with things, So she wasn't carefree. She was strong. She was so strong, and I'd say she had so much love and passion for this life and even for the people around her. Because you would ask her something about like a life event which was sad, it was traumatizing, but she would talk about it as if she's talking about someone else's story than herself. Yeah.
So now, how do you plan to carry forward or honor your grandmother's legacy?
Probably not by taking life too seriously, but at the same time making every day count.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I wonder if it's worth asking that last question one more time after this number ends.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe now.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So, now, how do you plan to carry forward or honor your grandmother's legacy?
Sorry,
Oh,
should we
sorry.
just, because I thought,
But just come back.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I think it's finished.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. So now, how do you plan to carry forward or honor your grandmother's legacy?
Probably by not taking life too seriously, but then at the same time, make every day count. Life is short, and I just want to live it to the fullest. From the separation, that it was such a big, as I said, such a big taboo, and there was a lot of shame attached to it, I think things are better now, but then back then, like, they would be like, oh my God, like this woman, she just decided to just like walk away from her life. And I do want to add that she had that privilege to do that because, again, I'm kind of like, I know it's annoying that I keep referring back to the concept of money, but she was financially independent. So she had the privilege to make that decision. But I can imagine like the things that she would hear from the family members, from the friends. And I would probably never know how she got through it. But I think by knowing about her, I think she got through it because she didn't believe that she's making a mistake or there's anything wrong with it. There was no shame. Like, she didn't feel guilty. She didn't feel shameful, And because she believed that, she would kind of like project that on others. And people around her, they had so much respect for her. And you could actually see that by the number of people that they showed up when she passed away in her funeral. And it wasn't just like, these were the people that they were always there. It wasn't just like, oh, because it's, like she passed away and we were just paying respect, So I think they respected her choices. They respected the woman that she was, and she believed in herself, And about losing her child, honestly, like, still to this day, I'm still kind of like processing that how she dealt with that, Back then I was naive enough that I was thinking, well, she had another 6-7 kids. But it's stupid for you to think, oh, just because you've got other kids, like they can. No, it's just, each kid for yourself is just unique and they don't replace each other. But I don't know how she got through it. But again, maybe she just didn't have the luxury to not be okay with it. She had to move on, you know. She had to, like, think about it, that when she had to move from city to city because of my granddad's job. She had other kids with her, you know, and she had to be there for them. So like there was no time for her to probably just, you know, like be depressed and yeah, it's amazing the resilience that these women had. It's just amazing. I honestly, like, I can't imagine. I honestly can't imagine.
How was the experience for you?
I thought I knew a lot about her, but apparently I didn't, you know, because like when I was talking with my dad, he kind of like shared a lot of things that I actually didn't know. But it was very interesting because I had a chat with my dad and I also had a chat with my aunt. And my dad, he was so happy to talk about her life events, you know, people around her, the events that happened. But he really wasn't ready to kind of like explore like feelings, emotions, like what he was feeling, how was he feel. Like he wasn't ready to do that. And he would like I was like, okay, if I just dig deeper, he gonna snap at me. And he wouldn't really talk about her. You know what I mean? But it's interesting that when I talk with my aunt, like she was the star of the show. She was the star of the story. The story was about her, you know, it was about a woman.